Vice President and Vice Principal of Services from King's College London. Bronwyn, I'll hand over to you for your presentation. You have about 7 to 8 minutes.
Thanks very much, Matthew. I shall try and get this up. Can you see that now? Yep. Okay, great.
Perfect.
That's fantastic. Okay, thanks very much for the invitation to present here today. What I want to give you is a bit of an overview of what we're doing at King's with service, which is our offer around social impact, and working in service to society is actually where that tagline comes from. So if I could just move along to the next slide. Let me, oh, hang on. Oh, yep, there we go. It was a bit slow, sorry. So our vision at King's is to make the world a better place, like many of the great civic universities. We're aiming to do that through 5 interlinked priorities as part of our Vision 2029 statement, which is our strategic direction that the university has set until 2029. We have a core academic mission, and I think this is important, where we have 3 central planks to our mission as a university. One is education, one is research, of course, that's fairly conventional, but the other is what we call service. So service, which is our work, as I suggested, on social impact, working in partnership with our communities that are surrounding us internationally, locally, domestically. We also want to make this one of our core priorities, and that's quite unusual, especially for a Russell Group university. So service, therefore, is a whole institution priority for King's, and service works across 5 core axes, and these are them on the right. So social reform, educational experience, research impact, volunteering, and environmental sustainability are the ways in which we try and deliver this service agenda. So we define service as an identifiable experience that's shared, and that's the core thing, between King's, its students, staff or alumni, and the community or environment in which we operate. So we want to try and institute measurable positive change and outcomes in the present or the future through a variety of different kinds of planned interventions, which I'll come to in a moment. So this strategy was co-created with our community of students and staff, and you can find out more about it at the link just below there. So today I want to talk about how King's puts service into action in our work. So the first thing I want to talk about is our work around what we call service learning. So service learning is an attempt to kind of integrate that meaningful, mutually beneficial community engagement with our partners into the curriculum itself. So to make this work core to curriculum and to offer academic credit for learning that's related to student subject of study that derives from working collaboratively on some kind of identified community need. So that's what we're trying to do here. Now, we have already developed some optional modules in what we call service learning. So these are things like sustainability in practice. So that runs at the BA or undergraduate level. It's worth 15 credits. Or other more highly developed social learning modules, service learning modules, for example, migration, social justice and community organising. That is a master's level offer, and that is a 40 credit weighted service learning module. Now, we're very proud of those optional modules, but what I've been concerned about with those optional modules is that they can only reach a relatively small number of students at any one given time. And what we want is for all of our undergraduates to have at least one experience of service learning during their career. And we want that to be built into the core curriculum. We think that's incredibly important. So we're developing a quite ambitious proposal around this. And the proposal that we're suggesting is that we are going to deliver a large-scale service learning offering that is available right across the community. So it's a scaled offering. It'll be offered in a blended mode, partially online and partially face-to-face. And what it's going to give all students, we hope, access to a suite of micro modules. So they'll be weighted at 5 credits each, which will give them what I call the skill set and the mindset capabilities to become what we call empowered change makers. So just to give you a bit of an idea about the kinds of content for those modules, in the mindset modules, we're going to deliver micro modules in things like disruption and creative change making, cultural competency, leadership and global problem solving, resilience and adaptability, and so forth. And in the skill set, these are much more applied micro modules, which actually teach students how to go out and do socially impactful work with community partners to institute change. So these are things like community organising, campaigning, health advocacy, influencing policy, sustainability in practice, and so forth. And we're hoping to get that scaled service learning offer up over the next 2 years so that all students across the campus can access that learning as part of their core curriculum. We also have some very large international service projects. So the one on the left is our Sanctuary project. The one on the right are our King's Global Health Partnerships. Both of these involve working with communities who are under-resourced in terms of either their health or their educational capacity, often in conflict or very poor, fragile emerging economies. So the King's Global Health Partnership, we deliver training for doctors, nurses and midwives in some of the poorest African countries. And in the Sanctuary program on the left, what we've done is developed a whole offering around access to university for displaced refugee students who have come out of the Syrian conflict and are now living in Lebanon and Jordan. And we have built down the bottom there, you can see some study hubs actually in these refugee camps that they've been displaced to. And from there, they do foundational access courses and MOOCs that give them access to things like digital skills and so on, so that they can access university. And many of them have done so. We've had 80 of those students have gone into university in region since we began that program 4 years ago now. So in terms of our broader operations as a university, we're thinking very carefully about everything that we do and how our operational activities can make positive social change and impact. So we've developed a socially responsible procurement policy. So like any university, we purchase many third-party goods and services, but we are now making it a condition of, you know, the offer of those contracts to providers that they must meet certain requirements for us in terms of things like their sustainability, their practices around, you know, social values, their conformance with things like the Modern Slavery Act and so on. So that becomes, they can't get the contract unless they have clearly indicated that they are supportive of these important regulatory obligations and other legal obligations. In terms of service time, we now have 3 paid volunteering days per year. That means that every member of staff is given 3 paid volunteering days per year for external service activities. And we're trying to actually match staff expertise with those opportunities in community. So if I could give you an example, if someone is a leading financial expert or financial administrator in the department, we would try and link them with a community partner who needs some kind of specialised work developing their financial reporting capabilities, for example. So we try to max out what they can do. King's Food is also working very hard to reduce food waste, recycle, fulfil our Fair Trade Action Plan. And we're proud to have 2 out of 3 stars from the Sustainable Restaurant Association for that work as well. So this has been reflected in a really strong performance in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings for 2020. We came 9th in the world, 3rd in Europe, 2nd in the UK. So these are linked to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They use those as a framework for measuring the social impact of universities. And you can see where we scored in those things, perhaps unsurprisingly scored the highest in partnerships for the goals, given what I've just outlined and all of our work internationally and nationally, trying to build those really iterative, you know, co-authored projects with community partners to address some of those core social challenges that they face now, and especially post-pandemic, when we're going to have to be doing more of this building back better agenda in genuine partnership, in a genuinely flattened social hierarchy between those community partners and the university. So we've been recognised as well for our work on gender equality and reducing inequalities We won the Times Higher Education Data Points Merit Award just recently for our commitment to gender equality and reducing inequalities. But we're really working specifically on the gender equality ranking, as I've set out there, but also on the reducing inequality ranking down the bottom. So not only through our research on social inequalities, but also through the kind of work that we try and do with widening participation. So, for example, in London, we've developed the Civic Leadership Academy, and what that does is provides specific leadership training for individuals who come from under-resourced social backgrounds to try and make the greatest impact that they can in developing these sort of projects, and we give them specific training and leadership mentoring to deliver that work. So 80% of the people who are on the Civic Leadership Training Academy come from widening participation backgrounds. So we're very pleased to be able to do that work as well. So I think that sums it up pretty well. You can see our Twitter there. You can see some of our students, very diverse, very, very committed to service. And I'm incredibly proud to lead this function at King's, which I hope is really going to drive some transformational sector leading change in how we do social impact and how we train a whole new generation of young people to become these empowered change makers over the next 5 years. So thank you very much.
Bronwyn, thank you so much for that really inspiring presentation. Colleagues, if you do have any questions for Bronwyn, please put them in the chat box.